Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Real-Time Career Pivot Show. Unfortunately, I was out last week attending HubSpot's Inbound conference in Boston, and so we didn't have uh, our show last week. And so I think I canceled the event. I think it might have canceled every future event as well. So I need to get that built out again. Waiting on Nathan. He may or may not be able to join today. He's in the UK, so a little bit of a time lag between London time and US Pacific time. But yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. From now on, school started for my kids, and I'll only have about 30 minutes in this time slot. So if we find that we're bumping up against our time and have a lot more to share, or there's a lot of engagement, we'll look to maybe change the time. But with our time zones, London and Pacific time zone, we don't have a lot of wiggle room with that. So anyway, welcome. If you recall, in the last show a couple of weeks ago, kind of left the door open this week to talk about mental health. And I mean, it's real, and there still seems to be a stigma around it. I don't know why, because I mean, you pull a hamstring, there's no stigma. You limp, and people are just like, "Hey, can I get you something? Can I help you?" But yeah, it's weird because our mind our brain is really what drives us every single day. So just a little weird that it's just like anything else in our body. There's such a fine balance to everything that doesn't take much really to kind of get things a little off. And when you're going through a career pivot, it's intimidating, it's scary, especially if you're later in your career, like I am, like Nathan is. We have families, we have a mortgage. There's a lot of fear involved with the career pivot because you feel like you have to take a step back, 2 steps back. You don't know. There's a lot of unknown, right? You're leaving your comfort zone that you've known maybe for several years, maybe for 20 years, and doing something very scary. And then you've just got life thrown at you. And so this year, personally, I'll talk about some personal stuff. I'll be a little vulnerable. I don't think there's enough of it, honestly. Everybody wants to put up a facade on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, and you only see the good stuff. You never really know what people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And so for me, 2023 has been a pretty awful year. As far as that goes, I thought 2020 was bad. But 2023 has served up a lot of shit. So, started in January, found out, went back home for a Cincinnati Bengals American football playoff game, was super excited. Hadn't been to a home Bengals game in a long time. The only Bengals playoff game I've ever been to, because when I lived there, they sucked and never went to the playoffs. And so the only playoff game I've ever been to was the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. So really excited to get back and go to a playoff game. And I get in and meet with my mom and find out my mom and dad are getting divorced after 47 years. So it was unexpected. Threw me for a loop. Affected me when I got back to Washington State, and kind of knocked me off of my routine a little bit. It was harder to focus. Plus, my business was actually doing well from a revenue perspective, but it's because when I get paid, there's usually a time difference between when I land deals and when I get paid, just the nature of the work I do. And even though I had some really good months in February, March, April, the back end, my pipeline was unusually quiet, and there just wasn't the activity, the referrals coming in, the activity that would keep things more consistent just wasn't there. So I couldn't really celebrate this achievement of my biggest months of revenue in 2 years because I was worried about the future and what was going to happen with a pipeline so dry. So I really, that worried me. I had hitched my wagon to, marketing ops and strategy, marketing strategy, sales strategy for staffing agencies. And as everyone knows, beginning of the year, tech layoffs abound. No one's hiring, and if they are, there's people on the market. They don't really need an agency to help. So that dried up, and so I'm in the process of pivoting into other markets. But my parents' divorce, followed by slowdown in business, really started to weigh on me. And then May happened, and my cousin, who was only 52, we grew up living very close to each other. He was kind of like a big brother to me. I was the oldest in my family, and I didn't have a big brother. He was kind of that big brother to me, someone I looked up to my whole life. He died suddenly the end of May, near Memorial Weekend here in the U.S. And I'm still not over that. And I think that was kind of the final nail in the coffin for me this year. Prior to this year, I was super motivated. I would get up without an alarm every day at 3:30, be at my desk at 4, writing, working on podcasts, working on client projects. And I'd be done by 2 p.m. usually. But it was still a long day. I have multiple clients in the UK. I have 5 a.m. calls with them. Those were easy because I was already up for an hour and I could prepare. And then after my cousin passed away, I couldn't get out of bed. My alarm would go off. I'd always have an alarm just in case I didn't wake up on my own, and hadn't really had to use it for the last several years because my body was just so in tune with everything. It was so consistent that it would go off and I would actually hit snooze, and I haven't hit snooze in years. And I just couldn't get out of bed. And there were times I would get out of bed. I'd pull myself out, I'd get dressed, and I'd crawl back in bed because the weight of the day, I just couldn't get going anymore, and started getting up later and later. And then that would really kind of bring me down even further, because I knew, like, I'm not even doing the things I enjoy in the morning. I'm not, I loved that quiet time. I have 3 kids, and from 4 to 7 was really my quiet time, my focus time. I treasured that time. I could be creative. And now that was slipping away. And so these things just piled up. And I think as a guy, I'm not going to generalize, and I don't know if it's a guy thing, but I'll tell you, a me thing was tough it out. It'll pass. It's a tough stretch. Just keep pushing through, get up, do your thing. But I couldn't. It's the first time. I've been down before. We all have moments where we're just feeling down, and usually I could snap out of it pretty quickly. Never had moments where I'm down where I just can't get out of bed. This was new. And I think that's why I was starting to get a little worried, because this was a whole new thing. I still told myself, push through. You're strong. You're mentally tough. You've been through a lot of shit. You have grit. Push through. And then finally, I couldn't. And so I had to go to my doctor, and I had to say, and it's very hard to admit. To me, it kind of felt like I was weak, like I was mentally weak, physically weak. And I don't know if that's a guy thing or not, but that's what made it hard for me to find, to call my doctor and talk about it. But finally I did, because I do have a family, because I have a business. And if my business does not make money, we can't pay our bills and mortgage. So I had to do something. And so I went to my doctor and she said, yeah, you are depressed. And it was fairly severe. And she prescribed me medication, which I don't like taking medication. I mean, I'll take vitamins and supplements and things like that. Um, but medication, I'm a lowest effective dose kind of person when it comes to like over the counter stuff like Advil. Um, I mean, I took a toxicology course during my undergrad, and it just made me not want to ever take Tylenol again. But I really try to stay as healthy as I can to not have to be on medication. And so again, just getting prescribed medication to take care of something that needed to be taken care of was also another thing. It's like, and making you feel weak and that you need this help. You need a pill to make you get going again. I mean, it's just mentally tough in a lot of ways, obviously. But it helped, and I was able to get back into somewhat of a routine. I'm still not getting up as early as I would like. I don't really know what I need to do to fix that. I guess get a little bit more motivation, do something in the morning, I guess, every morning that I'm more motivated to get out of bed for. And checking email is not that thing. But I'm kind of back in more of a routine. I'm back into focusing. For a long time, I've juggled a lot of different things, a lot of different projects, a lot of different stuff. I have my business. I have 2 podcasts. I'm always taking some kind of course. Right now I'm in Pavilion CMO school, always trying to keep getting better because I'm a consultant. And for me, it's the value I bring to the table is what I know and knowledge and staying up to date on things. So I constantly have to be learning about things. And so there's a lot to juggle. And for a while, it felt like things were dropping. Like I couldn't juggle everything completely for any period of time. And now it feels like I'm finally getting back to being able to juggle, and it's just a mental thing. And I did start meeting with a psychiatrist and counseling. That's helped. I think it's still, what I've found is it's still really hard to open up, to tell her everything that's on my mind and everything that's causing me worry and that I'm trying to juggle. But after several months of meeting with her, and each time it becomes more and more evident that, that she feels strongly that I have ADHD, which makes sense because I keep everything in my head. I always have. And I constantly, it's easy for me to get distracted. I jump from thing to thing. I can do a lot and I balance a lot. And maybe that's why I balance a lot, because just I have to have lots of things going on at once because of that. So now I've found out that I have that. And so now I got to get that figured out. Found out there's a drug shortage for ADHD. So that's fantastic. Classic 2023 for me. But feel like I'm moving in the right direction. But it just feels like this year, and I know there's other people out there, and maybe not this year, but maybe in the past, you felt this, that when you're going through these rough patches and you're pushing through and you're doing what you need to do, you're getting up, you're showing up, putting on this facade. People, I'm in Zoom calls with have no idea like what I'm feeling every day, all day. For some stupid reason, I decided to run for city council because, again, I put the weight of the world on my shoulders. I feel like I can make change happen. Didn't like the direction things were going. Got tired of bitching about it and decided to do something about it. And I hate it. I hate every ounce of politics. And this will be the last time I ever run for any public office because it sucks. It's not my thing. I'll find other ways to make change happen, but it ain't this. And that's weighing on me because I hate it so much. Because I found out, everybody knows that politics is just dirty and filthy and gross, and it is. And I refuse to be a politician. And I just think there's something mentally screwed up with people who want to be a politician. That's just my take on it. You got to be a little off, really. But that's weighed on me, and because my whole goal is to make change happen. Win or lose, I wasn't going to be quiet. I wasn't going to sit on the sidelines, afraid to get out there and say what I feel, and where I feel the change needs to happen. Because I just felt going in, if I lose, if I can have some impact, even a little impact, on making things better by showing up and showing out, to me, that was a win, right? So now I'm getting threats. Before I went to bed, I went to email the person who is making a lot of my signs and collateral and cards and things like that, to let her know that I can pick my stuff up today, the next day at 4:30. And when I went into email, I had this email from someone, and it was basically threatening me. And so that's another thing people don't understand that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis. There's a lot of nasty people, especially when you get in politics. There are a lot of people out there that are scared, that are being lied to, being manipulated for personal political agendas. And I think that's been the most disgusting thing to me about being in politics. I know I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but it's just another thing that's added. So I feel like, and this is kind of where I was going, is like, you feel like you start to make progress, start to pull yourself out of this hole, and then boom, something else hits you. And I don't know if it's always like that, and we're just never in this mindset to where we're already down in a hole. If our feet are on firm ground and we get hit with these things, we can take it and we don't notice it as much. But I think once you've been knocked down a few times in a year, don't know why my camera's out of focus now. Once you've been knocked down a few times, it feels like every even little minor thing. I'm going to try to get back in focus because this is thoroughly annoying me with this camera. Come on, man. Anyway, you're just going to have to look at blurry me. It just feels like things keep coming. We make some progress and then we get knocked down another notch. So that's kind of how it feels, now with this political thing and getting threats and harassed. It just keeps coming. And so yeah, I mean, really what I wanted to talk about, and when you're going through a career pivot like Nathan and I, and for me, I'm taking the LSAT in January just for options. I don't know if I'll go to law school or not. I don't know if I'll pursue that thing. But it's always nice to have options, right? Gosh, this is bugging the hell out of me. Sorry, guys. Maybe the last time I used this camera. I think it's just hitting my mic. Anyway. Anytime you're going through a change with your career, with your life, it's going to hit you differently. And everything's going to be compounded, right? Because you've got this fear now. And I'm a big believer in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, into where the top is self-actualization. The bottom is just like find food. And when you start to, and then towards the middle is security and safety. And I think at a time I was pushing towards self-actualization. When I had what felt like a very secure job, predictable income, no debt. Like, I felt like I could really focus on being creative, writing a book, doing those things. And then when I quit my job and started to do my own thing, I got bumped down several rungs on the hierarchy, down to safety, security, somewhat even food and shelter, because now I needed to work to make sure that those things still happened. So all my creativity died immediately. Been trying to get it back. And I think as you get bumped down on those lower rungs of Maslow's hierarchy, it changes your mentality. It just changes how you approach things. And so if you are now going through a career pivot, a career change, you're probably feeling like you're bumped back down to that safety security rung. And that puts you in a different mindset psychologically, whether you realize it or not. And it affects how you make decisions. And typically we're very irrational in general when we make decisions. We try to predict the future, but no one can predict the future. And our mind goes to this place of the worst possible outcomes. And now we're bumped down to that Maslow's hierarchy of safety and security. And so it makes it tough. And I think to sum all of this up, the bottom line is there's more people out there like me than you probably think. When you're talking with someone on Zoom today, just know that maybe there's stuff they're going through in their life. They seem a little distracted or hard to focus, or even if they are focused and putting on a good show. A lot of people are dealing with stuff. So be patient, be kind, and be helpful. And for everyone out there that is going through some shit like me, get help. That's really how you could be the strongest, even though it feels like you're vulnerable and weak. Get help. Help other people get through it. It's tough and it feels lonely. It feels like you're on an island. You feel like all your other friends and everybody else around you are fine, and you are just going through this alone. But you're not. Trust me, you're not. And you gotta just show up. Just get up. Push yourself through it. But definitely get help so that you can start to show up. And it's those things that are really going to start to really help you get momentum. And I'm a big believer in momentum. And I think the more you can do a little bit, don't overwhelm yourself, every day, a little bit at a time, and just build habits, get back into habits you once had, build momentum, even if it's for 15 minutes a day. When maybe you used to spend an hour doing something, just do a little bit every day. Once you build that momentum, you're going to feel so much better. And it's just going to be a flywheel, right? And that flywheel will just spin faster and faster and faster until hopefully you don't need medication. I would still recommend talking to someone, having mentors, having a counselor, somebody to talk to, because I think in this disconnected world that we live in, it's very important. I mean, I have my wife, I can talk to her, but sometimes it's good to talk to somebody else who might be a little bit more objective, right? Who can maybe see the forest through the trees. So definitely get help, definitely reach out to people, whether it's mentors, counselors, whatever. And just find a way to show up a little bit each day until you can show up a lot. And I think it's just a combination of things. But that's what I've got. Nathan, I don't think was able to make it, obviously. Haven't seen it pop in. But next week, we're going to have a guest on. From a couple of weeks ago, we had a conversation about pivoting with kids and families, and someone was really engaged in our comments, and he had pivoted 4 times. He also has young kids like Nathan and I. And so we really thought, hey, man, it would be great if he came on and could share some of the things that that he's gone through. So Nathan actually just pinged me and said he's on the train. So he won't join today, but next week, I'm sure he'll be able to join. But that's what I have for today. Surprised, but not surprised that I could ramble for 25 minutes. But reach out to me if this hit home with you. If you're feeling like this has helped in any way, or you'd like to talk, you're experiencing similar things or have in the past, reach out to me. Love to talk. I always make time for people to talk, whether it's in a mentorship capacity or just a friend, an ear. So feel free to reach out. Hopefully this helped. Sorry about the shitty camera. Have to figure that out before next time. But be sure to follow the Winding Road Careers page. That's where this is going to be kind of tied into. And then I will spin up the next series of events. So be sure to RSVP for those. Yeah, let me know if you want to be on the list of notifications about these. Anyway, stay safe, take care, have a great rest of your week.